in your mind, they tell you, don't think like that. It is the Satan trying to direct you in the wrong direction. So you're like, oh shit, oh, and then you start praying and you pray.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything's blamed on Satan. So, moving on now. Now that you're in the Western country, so we ran away from Pakistan because our lives were in danger. We came here, and then I'm like, I thought I was young. I'm like, I ran away from all my problems, but now we have people here, and people converting here that will teach you or I what real Islam is. One of the example is Andrew Tate. Can we have
yeah.
a little bit of opinions of Andrew Tate from your side?
Oh yeah. Wow, there's so much to talk about. What do you want to talk about when it comes to Andrew Tate?
Well, what do you think like about these people that just convert into Islam and then they come and then tell us who've lived in it, who've been in it, lived in Islamic countries, and then they tell us that you're Islamophobic? That really pisses
Uh,
me off.
yeah, I mean, it is very strange. There is, of course, in the West, when it comes to Islam, there is a complete distortion going on about what Islam really is. In the West, it's like, oh, it's just a religion. Like, I don't know, it's like between God and yourself. It is just all about worshiping and praying, and preserving traditional values. And that is the whole thing with Andrew Tate too. Andrew Tate was drawn to Islam supposedly because it has these traditional values, and it is against all the societal progressive corruption, and it's all about masculinity, and also because it's intolerant. Here is the funny thing: for many years, people in the West try to depict Islam as a religion that is very tolerant and very nice and peaceful and harmonious and whatever you want to call it. But now Andrew Tate comes along and he openly says that he likes Islam and he praises Islam because Islam is intolerant. Because
Yeah.
Islam doesn't respect insults. Because when you criticize or insult Christianity, Christians don't care. But if you insult and criticize Islam, then Muslims become violent and angry, and that
Mhm.
is good, apparently, according to him. So he created this whole narrative now that this is actually a good thing about Islam, and now some Muslims like Al Dawa are turning around uh, and adopting that and saying Islam is good because Islam is intolerant. So
Oh,
it is a very strange change of direction that is currently going on when it comes
mhm.
to Islam. I'm slightly confused myself.
My mom said this to me probably like a couple of years back, and she's like, the way all the Western, the wokeism, everything that is going, they're gonna go so far left. Then that these people with Islam, they were going to come and they're going to be like, Islam is the best religion. This is what's going to save you against what is happening in the Western culture because they've lost their family values. There's too much divorce. Women are going nuts. The same points Andrew Tate mentions. So, and I see it happening now. Like he was there, he said that he's like, if you wear Jesus is gay in the Western country, nothing would happen. But obviously, if somebody were Muhammad is gay, you know what will happen. So
He was the one who said, sorry, I muted myself, but he was the one who said, I think his words were something like, if you say Jesus is gay, like, nobody cares. But if you say the same thing about Muhammad, then you cannot walk to the end of the street, or you will be killed before you make it to the end of the street, something along those lines. And that is apparently a very good thing. So on the one hand, it is kind of nice that that we have been saying forever Islam is intolerant, Islam is violent, Islam is this and that. And
yeah.
now, after so much struggle, somebody actually comes out and praises Islam for being intolerant. And now it is becoming more accepted, and people are reacting with disgust to it now. Like, lots of people are reacting with disgust, and they're saying, they are now acknowledging that Islam is indeed intolerant and extremely problematic. On the other hand, Andrew Tate and people like him are glorifying the violence and the intolerance in Islam, and that is, of course, uh, a little bit problematic, right? And that also raises some questions about people's attitudes and
Yeah.
if they
He
are
does
really
have a huge
okay with
following.
violence.
yeah, no, I find like a lot of his following is young men. And I can understand whatever you're teaching about women or whatever the other matrix and stuff. But when it comes to, Islam and putting that in their head that, and they always keep comparing, Muslim women, they submit to their husbands. Muslim women do this and that. And that's now my next where I'm going to move on to is just Pearly Things, I think her name is. She was like, I love Muslim women because, they submit more to their men. So now, before we go to her, what do you think? Like people like Andrew Tate and Sneeko are actually hurting Islam and making our job easier, or they're promoting good Islam? Like,
I think, to be very honest, when I heard that Andrew Tate converted to Islam, in fact, it's very funny. I made a tweet. So I posted a few things before he converted to Islam. I posted
yeah,
about
it's not.
how I posted about how he's a scumbag and I don't really care about him and stuff like that. And I just he just popped up out of nowhere. It's like suddenly I was getting bombarded on social media platforms on YouTube and on TikTok with videos from this guy who is talking complete garbage. That is like extremely dumb stuff that I heard in high school very often. And this guy is now here on social media acting like he's some genius with all these hard facts that you hear in high school from the idiots. And I thought, what is this? Who is this guy? So I looked a little bit into him. I was annoyed. Then I saw that he was talking nicely about Islam, and I made a tweet back in October saying, I hope Andrew Tate converts to Islam. He fits right in. And I think the same day he announced that he converted to Islam. And
Yeah, it was very soon. Yeah.
yeah, which was a complete coincidence. Um, and when I heard that he has converted to Islam, I laughed, and I felt amused, and I'm still amused by it. I'm still happy about it because I think that Andrew Tate converting to Islam is actually very, very bad for Islam and very good for all those who have been trying to expose Islam as a very problematic, very intolerant, hateful, misogynistic religion all along. He's making our job much easier. And I think people like Andrew Tate and people like Sneeko, and Sneeko is just copying Andrew Tate. He's like the discount
Yeah.
Andrew Tate. So I think they're going to be very damaging to Islam in the long run. And that is great.
But I think if you look at Sneeko and Andrew Tate, I think they are perfect fit for Islam because if you can see the life of Muhammad, that's what he did. He had like sex slaves, and that's how Andrew Tate is making his money, right? Like basically slaving girls into doing whatever. He also likes to have multiple women. So did Muhammad, right? So everything that he basically does is like reminds me of Muhammad's life. So he's like a perfect match. The misogyny, the everything that he says, it's like he's perfectly made for that religion. Same thing with Sneeko. Didn't you see his picture with like two women? I don't know what he was doing, but if you go back in 1400 years ago, there was no cameras. But that's exactly what was happening with Muhammad when he had, well, how many wives? 11. He visited 11 women in one night.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, according to one narrative, it was 9 women. According to another, it was 11 women. But it was something like that. And yeah, Andrew Tate always goes around talking about how women are dumb and women are trash and stupid, and you should just, as men, you should make sure to have sex with as many of them as possible, and subdue them and pick out the ones that are obedient and good to you, and make them your girlfriends, and then also not just let them live and be happy. You should also use them to work for you and to make you an income and stuff like that. It's pretty horrible. And of course, he also set up this whole business of seducing women, finding those that are particularly vulnerable, and then luring them into a relationship with him by lying to them and promising them a marriage and saying stuff like, "Oh, you are the only one. All the others aside, you are. I love you so much more than anything else." And he uses the same thing for every single one of them, and then lures them and brings them to his compound or to his many homes, where he then assigns like overseers to them, and they have to then work in the business and publish online content for him, and he makes money off of them. So that's how he sees women. Women are a tool. They are objects. They are just there for his pleasure, and for his monetary gain. And Sneeko is pretty much the same. He is from that same whole culture. To him, women are, just idiots that he is supposed to, have sex with and pick out and use. And it's very telling that these are the kind of people who are, who find themselves close to Islam. And in the case of Pearl, just Pearly Things, she is, I don't even know, she's just she was on a stream together with us, right? You have seen that. And
Yes.
uh, she, she has this whole self-hating attitude of like, women are not good enough, men are amazing, we should all be, we should be serving men. And she is just on a completely different role. I don't even understand. She's just trying
I
to,
know.
yeah.
So I just came across all this like because I didn't hear of Andrew Tate either, and then I heard that some guy has been kicked off because of misogyny. So I saw him, and then I heard that he converted to Islam, and I'm like, oh, perfect match. It was like match made in heaven. That's exactly what it seems like. They benefit from these women. That will also remind you of the Pakistani grooming gangs in the UK. Same stuff. They were manipulating naive women. And where else there was love jihad that you could say that is happening in India. Same way, the guy is like, oh, I'm in love with you and this and this and this, and then try to convert them and then use them. So it is the same footsteps he was going. That's what I'm saying. It's like match made in heaven. So now coming back to just Pearly Things, I do follow her, and her things like seriously just drive me nuts. But funny thing is that she was like, oh yeah, Muslim women submit to their men more and this and this. But you tell what happened when she actually questioned something,
Yeah.
and then she got a taste of our medicine, what we get all the time.
Yeah, she learned that Muhammad that Muhammad married a little child, that Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl. So she made this whole tweet of, did Muhammad date a 6-year-old girl or not? Some say he did, some say he did not, and she used that word date. And since it's a white woman on Twitter asking this question and asking it in kind of an inappropriate way, of course, all the Muslim men, it drew their attention. It immediately went viral. Over 1 million people saw it, I think, on the first day or so, and people started responding and attacking her. And Mohammed Hijab, among the Muslim apologists, among the known ones, came and like threatened her for basically just asking that question. And later she doubled down and said something like, so he did screw he did screw a 6-year he did screw a 9-year-old girl, or something like that. But she just continued with that, and Mohammed Hijab and others came again and were very threatening to her. And for a moment, it looked like she has seen this aggressive, true face of Islam and the Muslim apologists, and she accepted coming on my stream with David Wood and actually talking to us. And she also told us that she is very, concerned and shocked by this, and she got a lot of death threats from Muslims, and she finds this, kind of bad and confusing and all of that. But then some time passed after that live stream, and she made a tweet and was like, I regret what I said about Muhammad, and I should have been more respectful. That was not very good of me. I don't know what happened, but I think it's just I don't think she's a very, very honest, very stable person. I mean, just to give you an example, when she came on my live stream, we were talking about relationships and marriage. She asked me about how I feel about men obeying their their wives in a marriage, and I said, "Well, I don't see it that way. I mean, I am married, for example, and I and my wife, we are equal partners in this unit. which is a
Yeah.
marriage. And she said to me then, "Oh yeah, no, okay, that's fine. So it's an equal partnership. That is completely okay. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with men, obeying their wives." But then later, just a few days later, she made a tweet where she said something like, "People need to stop saying that they are equal partners in a marriage. This is feminist language." And I'm like, "What? You just said the complete opposite to me on the
Hmm.
stream." So she's just putting things out there without any genuine
What
thought.
she said about in her 20s, I don't even know she's had a relationship or whatever it is. But we all people in our brain can think and be like, yeah, it's compromise. No relationship, no dominance is going to work out. You have to compromise. You have to ask for other people, the other partner's opinion. It is a partnership.
Yeah.
I don't even understand what else you would call it. What is it? Like I just don't know. But like I said, for her, I was just happy because she's been pandering onto this ideology, and the women that she wants us to become are exactly the women represented in Islam.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be honest, right? And I know she was offended by Aisha's age, but all these men that go onto her stream, like Sneeko, and all these other men too that I've seen, Christian men, like highly Christian men, they all have said it that men like younger women. My next question would be how young? Because you need to ask these men that are sitting there, they want younger women. What is how young?
That's the thing, right? For example, when there were some videos circulating of Andrew Tate where he says that he had sex with a 16-year-old girl, and there is another one where he talks about himself and says, you have to be honest in what you're doing, and you can't just go around saying, I had sex with this 15-year-old girl, and then he corrects himself and says 16-year-old girl. Sorry, not 15, 16. That's what he does, and then he's like, well, that's the legal age in Romania and in UK. I think in America it's 18. He says, but as soon as it's legal, it's okay for him. It looks like 15 would be okay for him if it was legal. 16 is okay for him if it is legal, even when he is in his 30s. And that's really the thing. I mean, how low will you go with the age if you know that it is legal, right? And of course, we have Muslim apologists now, like Daniel Hakikachu, who openly come out and say that you can have sex with a girl if she shows early signs of puberty and she is only 5 years old. That guy comes out and says something as horrible as that.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we have these new people who are interested in Islam, and they think it's completely fine to have sex with a girl as soon as it's legally possible. I don't know
Like
what
I
to
said,
say.
you know what it is. I sum it up Islam in very small words. Islam starts between the woman's legs and it ends between women's legs. Because even in the end, you're gonna end up with a virgin, 72 virgins. So it's like all about sex. It's just I don't know. But so what was the reaction of just Pearly Things finding out that Muhammad did marry a 6-year-old and then had sex with her and
The thing is, when we went through everything about Muhammad and we even showed her the sources, sh it looked like she wasn't really very much disturbed or surprised by it, and that was actually kind
Hmm.
of strange to me. We were talking to her and we were showing her these things, and I even asked her her reaction and what she thinks, and she didn't express what she feels at all. All she responded to was, "Well, I'm just interested. I'm not going to convert to Islam. I don't think so." But that's all she reacted to. Like she didn't even really give a comment about how she feels about the fact that Muhammad actually married a little child. So I don't know. She's a strange person. But the good thing is that through her highlighting this stuff, a lot of other people who are normal are exposed to this, and they find out and they feel disgusted by it. Every single time this whole issue comes up, new
Mhm.
people learn about Muhammad's child marriage and about the fact that there are lots of Muslims today who think this is completely fine. And
Mhm.
that's why every single time it comes up, it just does our job for us, and that's good.
Yeah. Well, I think if she converted, she would become a perfect Muslim woman or a wife because she believes in all those values, right? And as Islam says, women have half a brain. I totally believe that she has, no offense, but half a brain, right? And it's so funny 'cause some of these Muslim women, like there's a couple of them that troll me all the time. They make streams on me, and I'm like, why do I have to listen to you? You have half a brain. Like, you know what? Why should I listen to you guys? Because you don't have a full brain. I'll listen to somebody that has full brain. Um,
That's a good objection.
it is, right? Like you're, and some of them will come on my stream and they'll be like, "Yes, we do have half a brain." So I think for her, she only heard one thing. She might not have reacted because you have to also understand the people that she caters to, her audience, and the men that she also brings on her podcast and stuff. Big names, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, they're all Muslim, so she doesn't really want to offend them either. Do you think that would be one of the things?
It could be. Well, okay, they're not all Muslims. Some of them are neo Nazis, and some of them are some of them are
You got
Muslims.
all the extremes. I've seen like some very extreme Catholic Christians there too that are like, no, the woman has to be like this.
Yeah, she has. Yeah, she had guests on who said some pretty horrible things about women. She also had Nick Fuentes on, who is a white separatist, a neo-Nazi kind of guy, for which she got a lot of backlash, and she later took the whole stream down. Um, but yeah, she has all these people on, and she primarily just caters to that whole, masculinity, and women should just obey and just be used for sex, and to that whole audience. And I don't know, it's so idiotic. She has this whole idea of like men should go around and have sex as much as possible, women shouldn't. For women it's bad. Women should just get ready for marriage, and then they will be then good wives. And she's just talking about all of this stuff while she is unmarried, and while she probably never had a serious relationship, as it looks. And
I
it's
know
very
I see
cringy.
people always, arguing, all the time as well because it's just her statements are so ridiculous. But I think it's become a trend. The more ridiculous statements you make nowadays, the more clout you get. Same thing with Andrew Tate and Twitter. So I think she's found this like the more ridiculousness I spew, even though I'm getting negative feedback, it's still good feedback, and that's why she has so many followers, right?
That is true. I mean, if you just go, I just touched my phone to open Twitter to look at my Twitter for you page, which is now a thing, just to look at a few examples, and I already see tweets suggested from her because they get so much traction. Because what she
Mhm.
does is she just puts out these nonsensical, provocative tweets that are
Mhm.
just, I think women shouldn't vote. I think women owe men a lot. Like stuff like that is like there is no serious thought behind it, nothing
No,
insightful. All she does is just she wants to put something out there that people feel, I don't know, disgusted, repulsed, shocked, angered by, so that she can have an audience. It just looks like that, and it's dumb. I mean, all these people care about is exploitation of people's emotions.
well, I think there's with the feminism and everything that is going on, with the wokeness and trans issue, everything that is going on, going too much to one side. I know that there is this need of men to hear that men are feeling neglected. A lot of divorce rates has gone up. Women now can make their own money, so we're more selective. We're like, why do we need a bum when we can make our own money, right? So um it's majority, well, not majority, but there is a certain percentage of men that are literally nowadays not having getting any women or have any game to get any women and are virgins. So then they get into women hating and then they become the incel, and she has a huge population of those men that follow her, right? So she knows that that narrative will sell, and that's what exactly she's trying to push and cater to. Doesn't matter how ridiculous she sounds.
That's the thing. There is a truth to one issue here, which is, and some of those people brought that up before as well. When you talk about men who didn't have, who don't have relationships and who never had a relationship or who can't go out and find a proper relationship, when you are in such a situation, but Andrew Tate said this before. I heard this and I thought, yeah, okay, this is true what he's saying, but it's also such a simple narrative. It is very hard for men who are not seen, to live with that reality, to exist. And when you are in such a state where you feel like, you are alone and you are unappreciated, and as a woman you could do whatever you want, but as a man nobody looks at you and you will not get a woman and so on, the whole world, you know all life starts feeling extremely dark and sad and unfair.
Mhm.
And this is one of the first things that I actually saw Andrew Tate say. And I thought, yes, it's true. I agree with him there. But that's also a very, very terrible thing to go into and to take advantage of and exploit for your own audience and your own personal gain. Because what he does is men who are in that state feel terrible and they are not understood, they are not seen, and so on. Therefore, I am providing a platform that you should subscribe to for $50 a month, where I can tell you how to be a great man. So, and and this is
The
what
problem,
he does,
yeah.
and he's not trying to solve the issue. He's trying to create a system where he just corrupts society and just contributes to that very thing that he diagnoses. And that's the problem. And instead of talking about how you could fix these things, uh, people turn it into this victimhood, competition, and this hate fest of, this is all the fault of women, this is all the fault
Yeah.
of the progressives and of the globalism, and it's just ridiculous. Instead of talking about things, people like that just like to take advantage of it and shock the population. That's ridiculous.
No, I do agree with that, and like I've had some conversations about this, that most of the men are invisible to us women, because yes, we want a man. Well, I just want a man to have a job. I'm not like, oh, you got to make six figures, but most of the women nowadays expect you to be making six figures. You got to be tall. You got to be this. You got to be that. Right? All those expectations. Now, remember, now we're not dependent on men. We can make our own money too. So if there is somebody that doesn't bring in any or add any value to us, we're just like, okay, we choose not to be with that person, right? But at the same time, we have, sorry to say, dumb women that will chase someone like Andrew Tate because he's got money, and will put up with him having 10 other women, sorry to say, bitches around him, and they'll share him,
Yeah.
right? So we also have dumb women like that that will just chase after that 1% men, and these men think, oh, we're playboys.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What I find also funny is, Andrew Tate, for example, he claims to be a motivation or a hope for those men who feel lonely and who feel, who are down, and he wants to help them get up and all that. And uh, but he is actually a person who would probably be judged and disliked by many of those men who are lonely, and they would point at somebody like him and say, uh, why do I, as a decent person, feel lonely when a complete scumbag like this guy flashes
Mhm.
all the things he has and then gets all the women because he wants to exploit them? And how is that in any way, good? How is that in any way a solution to any of this stuff? It is just,
I I think it's how they say nice guys always finish last, and it is in a way true, because some of us are stupid. We just keep falling for the players. We just keep falling for the guys that will treat us like crap, and we'll keep chasing them. It's
yeah.
just, I don't know. It's like our psychology, we're messed up, but dumb women chasing criminals. Exactly. There's women that are writing letters to Ted Bundy and these serial killers. So just imagine. It's
Yeah, I
it's just so.
understand. I get that, but it's just, I don't know. it's just it always comes down to the same issue, which is especially with Andrew Tate. That guy, there was a leaked message where he I think texts one of his girls, and he explains to her that that the whole stuff that he's doing online, selling courses to people and telling them how to create a business and how to be better men.
Mhm.
Um, he explains how he's doing this, how he's telling people to do these things, but people are idiots and they're lazy idiots and they will never do these things. They're losers. But
Mhm.
he, of course, he's the king and he's just doing this to make money off of people. I mean, this is something in text that he says to
Mhm.
somebody else. He's also a scammer at the same time. He admitted in the past that his whole webcam business, where he lures women in and exploits them,
Mhm.
and then makes men call in and make them tell them sob stories so that they give all their money to him, to his webcam business. He admitted in the past that this is a complete scam, where he basically scams the men that he is supposedly fighting for. And it's just all so out there. He's a scammer, he's a liar, he is all for exploitation, he's completely dishonest, he is criminal now. And I don't know. There are charges now. There will be more charges against him, and time will tell what will happen. I hope that he gets a very good punishment for everything he has done. And then, and what's good is he also has the Islam label now. He also is affiliated with Islam. If he gets sentenced and gets some brutal punishment, and he's still affiliated with Islam, then guess what the impact on the image of Islam will be.
Well, yeah, no, I think he's perfect for Islam because I think the amount of damage he's done, especially with that one tweet, I made a video on that where he was like, what did he say that he couldn't do this to Quran or something, and then every ex-Muslim was like, let me rip the Quran. Oh my god, I'm like, oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
just yeah, I just don't get it. Like, so most of the time I've seen this, and you will agree with me that let's say there's a blasphemy. Then, for example, you remember Samuel Paty from France that
Mhm.
was beheaded, right? He was only showing whatever he was beheaded, and apparently they were worried about blasphemy. But then look what happened. Then there was blasphemy all over France. Just because they did that, now Muhammad was getting trolled for days. Same thing with Salman Rushdie when they attacked him. People weren't committing, they were committing blasphemy, but then Muhammad had to hear it for like a month. So
Yeah.
it's just like, if you would just keep your mouth shut, we will just forget about it. We wouldn't even care. But because you keep doing this, you just keep stabbing yourself in your own foot.
I mean, that's the thing, right? People, talk about people mock Christianity all the time. People mock, make cartoons or drawings or jokes about Jesus all the time. There is no
Oh yeah.
strong reaction in the world, which is why there are no counter reactions to that, which is why it is not always on the news. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody even cares. It doesn't become global news. It doesn't become a huge outrage, and it doesn't incur campaigns of people who are like, okay, let us mock Jesus even more. It doesn't happen because Christians are not reacting. When something happens, when people mock Muhammad or when people mock Islam, the Muslims tend to think it's a fantastic idea to show their intolerance and their hostility, and to attack people, to threaten their lives, and to even end lives, to cause a massacre. They somehow, I mean, they are dumb enough not to understand that they are causing the opposite effect. Instead of getting rid of all of this, instead of suppressing it all, they are just inflating the whole thing and drawing more people into wanting to mock Islam and wanting to mock Muhammad, because that's how psychology works. I mean, in their own Islamic State, if they had an Islamic State and it happened within their Islamic State, they could forcefully shut the blasphemy down, shut the cartoons down, and it would be done with. But they are now trying to go out in a free world and try to shut it down, which they obviously will not be able to do. And once it reaches the attention of a sizable community on social media, or if it reaches the general media, then people get wind of this, and what they want to do then is to be more provocative about it, because that's what people do. If you try to shut them down, if you try to tell people you cannot do this, they
Yeah.
will want to do it even more. And then we have campaigns like Draw Muhammad Day, or uh, you know cartoon artists around the world making more cartoons about Muhammad, and Andrew Tate saying, uh, I challenge you to do this to the Quran, and then everyone jumps in and actually does it. So,
Well,
yeah,
common sense, I would say, like, nobody's ever seen Muhammad. We don't really have any pictures of Muhammad. Like, the common sense is like, if, for example, somebody goes and writes my name on some other picture, and I'm gonna start screaming, like, you don't even know what Muhammad looked like. Why are you accepting that person as Muhammad? Like, you could write Muhammad on a duck and they will say it's blasphemy, to be honest. It just doesn't make common sense. Just don't think of it as Muhammad. Just, you can say it doesn't look like Muhammad. Like, there's so many pictures, but they all think that it's Muhammad. It's just, I don't know. Maybe there's no
it,
common sense.
isn't it like I mean, when I was a Muslim, I remember it felt just very, very disturbing to the idea of insulting Muhammad, or of having Muhammad, of somebody insulting Muhammad. I remember
Mhm.
how that felt, and even after leaving Islam for years,
Yeah.
even when I was against Islam, it still felt kind of disturbing to me. I don't know if you or others feel the same thing, but it's still. I think I only slowly recently got kind of rid of that feeling, which I didn't
Mhm.
even notice, by the way. I'm noticing that right now. It's only now that when I say something about something very disrespectful about Muhammad, or I see something very disrespectful about Muhammad, I don't feel this sense of disgust or disturbance inside anymore. But it took a very long time, because in Islam you are given this whole thing that you're supposed to be very supposed to honor the prophet so much and love him more than you love your parents and your loved ones, although he's just a prophet. And they are taking that very, very seriously, and it would be much easier for everyone, including for them, to just you know not care about it. You're right.
So when you were talking about Muhammad Hijab, the only thing that was in my brain was David Wood's soundtrack that he, oh, the way he talks about Muhammad Hijab. I'm like, we missed that. I think we should have had you in the background saying that while we were talking about
Yeah, yeah.
Muhammad Hijab. No, I don't. I haven't gotten targeted from that side because I don't make that many English videos. I think you guys are more involved in with Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and stuff. I get it from my own country. So you were talking about like how people, when you push things down their throat and then they will react overly. So I don't know if you saw that clip that came from our country, Pakistan, where the Imam, the Maulvi, was crying
Yeah.
and he's like, where do we go? Whose door are we going to knock to? And I'm like, why don't you go to Allah? Why don't you knock Allah's door? So now we at least know that there's 400,000 people in Pakistan that are not only committing blasphemy, they're literally like the worst kind, where like they're like on Quran, they're ripping it, they're doing nasty stuff to it. And that's only what we know. So now we know there's at least four. I'm pretty sure the number is going to be high. So what do you have to think about? What do you have to say about that?
We actually reacted to that whole thing with together with David Wood. We watched that whole that video of those guys on Pakistani TV explaining that people are leaving Islam in masses, and they are doing all kinds of disgusting thing to the Prophet's name and the Quran and to the Sahaba and the Ahlul Bayt or whatever. And they were even explicitly mentioning how they're how they're writing Muhammad on their private parts.
It,
And
it looked like a soap opera to me. Every one of them were just like, oh my God.
it is so ridiculous. It's like grown men out there feeling so upset and so sad. They're crying, and the one guy was even saying like, "What are we supposed to do? Should we burn down all these cities?" And I'm, what? It's insane, right?
At least they've given up on Allah, because when he said that sentence, he's like, "Where are we gonna go? Whose door are we gonna knock onto?" And I'm like, I thought Allah was supposed to protect all this and stuff. It's sad that some of them have been arrested, and that they do come down really hard.